My name's Richard, I'm from Iggy Carpets, and I'm here to just give you a little bit more of an overview of what we're doing as a business. Maybe it's a little bit different to obviously the people which have spoken before. Start with an overview for those who aren't familiar with us, and then we'll start to look at sort of some of the things that we are going to be doing. Still to this day, our carpets are manufactured in Denmark, but we've grown to become a truly global supplier. We have sales and design presence in many countries around the world, including the UK. But beyond that, we are also supported by an extensive network of agents and distributors. And I'm not going to go through all of these milestones since we're a little bit short on time now, but just pick up on a few. Really, even back as far as 1970, long before the advent of things like BREEAM and Cradle to Cradle, Iggy was wanting to sort of make a positive difference, and we got involved with the World Wildlife Fund. And since 2009, again, it was something that was touched on earlier, we've produced annually a full and very detailed report into our corporate social responsibility, ensuring full openness and transparency of our organisation. And 2014 was also an important year for us, as we achieved a standard DS 49001, rolls off the tongue, similar to the ISO standards. It's something which is unique to CSR, and to this day we are the first and only manufacturer in the world to ever have achieved this. So to get back to our DNA, we've refined this into 3 strands, which forms our values, and these values are the bedrock of everything that we do as a business. So it's designing for beauty, striving for quality, and to act with respect. And it's this last one, to act with respect, which underpins our sustainability ethos and drives our ambition for carpets with authentic circularity. What we know as a carpet manufacturer is when you weave these strands together, you create something much stronger, a thread, hence the title of the presentation, A Green Thread. In the literal sense, at Iggy, we believe that great design shouldn't cost the earth. It shouldn't be a compromise either. Beauty and sustainability can coexist, whether it be a broadloom carpet, a tile, or even a rug. It has to be genuine too. This isn't about us spinning a yarn to our customers. Sorry, again, some really bad carpet puns in there. Actually, I make no apologies. So anyway, the green thread, it runs through all that we do. No matter what the colour of the carpet, everyone has this green thread woven into it. It has for decades, and it will continue to do so long into the future. We believe that every carpet, tile or rug that we produce is an opportunity to not only improve the sustainability of our environment, but also to contribute to the well-being of people too. We're guided by clear goals in our pursuit of circularity, and in our industry, Cradle to Cradle certification is widely recognised as the de facto standard for this. For a period, everything that we manufactured as an organisation achieved Cradle to Cradle bronze, but earlier on this year, 2 other businesses were integrated into the Iggy family, that being Hammer Carpets and Carpet Concepts. But this has set us a new challenge, so we're rapidly bringing these new additions back up to the same level, and we'll be achieving full Cradle to Cradle assortment once again from early next year. But to get to the high levels of Cradle to Cradle certification, particularly platinum, is a huge undertaking as it requires material innovation so we can comply with the strictest of criteria. This is why we're investing so much into research and development, both in-house and within our supply chain partners to help drive this change. So, as an example of this, we're putting a lot of efforts into developing a single material mono product. For the carpet world, this is kind of like the holy grail of carpet manufacture. And then at the end of its life, it can either be recycled, reused, or potentially even composted. And this is actually sort of a lot more complicated than what it sounds, because when you're creating a carpet and you're creating it to last for 10, 15, 20 years and be subjected to thousands and thousands of feet each day, you're literally sort of doing everything that you can for it to pretty much not come apart at the seams. So these 200 chemicals, compounds that go into making a carpet are sort of, obviously, they need to be separated at the end of their life. And that's sort of where the carpet industry has always historically had difficulties, and in the past why so much of it has gone to landfill, because it's not been possible. So really, we're making great strides at the moment. So the key to achieving the fullest level of circularity is through the implementation of a strategy even, with clear goals, targets and milestones. This way of thinking is nothing new for us. We're focused on environmental work for more than 20 years, ever since we achieved our first environmental certifications back in 1996. And every year since then, we've worked with environmental policies and ambitious objectives to improve our efforts. Our planet and humanity is obviously at a watershed moment, as we've seen from these last couple of weeks in Glasgow. But to address this even long before then, EG took the step to regard sustainability as a fundamental objective of our core business. However, turning waste into resource is not something that we can, as I say, simply achieve overnight, as the innovation does not solely come from our in-house activities. It's about us working with partners and suppliers, both upstream and downstream in the supply chain. So a few key statistics up here, and we'll go on to look at some of these in a little bit more detail. In particular, the 38% of regenerated yarn that goes into our carpets, and the 760 tonnes of plastic bottle waste that's currently being turned into our carpet backings. I'd like to come back to the yarn and the cone residues and recycling in a little bit more detail too, as this is actually quite interesting, as it goes beyond sort of striving for circularity with waste material, as there's some social benefits too. Up on here we've got an image of one of our reform memory carpet tiles, prop time, and this is a really good example of circularity at work, where waste is not waste until it is wasted. So unlike many carpet tiles, all of ours actually have this patented eco-truss backing, which is free from bitumen, PVC and fiberglass, which have all been combined together. And the regenerated yarn, again, is another really good example of us working with partners in the supply chain. Not only is the yarn 100% regenerated from post-industrial and post-consumer nylon sources of nylon, most notably 1,800 tonnes of yarn that were directly attributed to fishing nets. And there's long been a problem with fishing nets. Obviously, when they reach the end of their useful life, they get cast off into the ocean, and that's when, obviously, as we've seen on all of the nature documentaries, you then see these ghost fishing nets, which are harmful to aquatic life. So by incentivising change and encouraging those nets to be brought back to land, and it's literally sort of giving money for old rope, as it were, that then creates an actual sort of stream of material that can then go into making carpet yarn. So it's done through a specially sort of scaled process where you take the old fishing nets, all of the other waste, it gets actually broken down into being a base polymer, and then it can be regenerated back up into a new polyamide yarn. So we are have to be very careful with the wording here. It is technically regenerated, it's not recycled, because you're taking something and then you're kind of literally taking it right back to its absolute sort of core constituent and then sort of rebuilding it back up from scratch. And then those yarns get tufted into a primary backer, and the primary backer itself, that's made from over 90% recycled polyester. Right, so yeah, we talk the talk on recycled materials, well, we like to think we do. But just going to the eco-truss backing, and this is something we put onto a lot of all of our carpet tiles and even some of our flat woven broadloom products, and it's made from 100% plastic bottle waste. I think we're still, to this day, the only manufacturer in the world that can make this claim. So we take PET bottles, they get shredded down, as you can see from the pictures, into small chips. That's then turned into a really sort of fine, fleecy fibre through an extrusion process. And then that in turn is compressed using heat and pressure to create a really sort of dense and dimensionally stable felt backing, which is what you can see here. And then at the end of its life, because we've literally got just a backing made of PET bottles and not some sort of hodgepodge of bitumen and fiberglass and PVC all sort of blended together, it makes for much easier separation, helping to achieve that circularity. And again, you mentioned decking planks, and again, potentially, yeah, there's a life for the tile backing, maybe in the form of street furniture, or again, also decking planks. Yeah, the great thing is it's comparable underfoot comfort. The acoustic performance is on par with regular carpet tiles, but it is a heck of a lot lighter as well. So actually there's a further knock-on benefit. Lower weight equals lower CO2 emissions to actually get the carpet tiles from point A to point B. Now last year we used an estimated 45.7 million plastic bottles in our various tile backings. Sounds a lot of plastic bottles, but rather tragically that still only accounts for a little over 47 minutes of the total annual global plastic bottle consumption worldwide. So yeah, there's a lot of bottles out there, but yeah, hopefully if other companies can find a use for bottles, then we can take a few more minutes away from that total, or just buy more carpet tiles, I guess. So whilst cradle to cradle bronze is our current focus, our next goal for all carpets is to achieve gold by 2025 and then platinum by 2030. And again, obviously we've spoken a lot about milestone years. 2030 really is a big milestone year for us. But I suppose unlike a lot of businesses and maybe some other manufacturers, we don't believe in kind of just cherry picking one or two products to give consumers that sustainable choice. For us, it really is sort of all or nothing. And that's why we're sort of quite specific about that. It's got to be everything by those milestones. But to get to, as I said earlier, to get to platinum is a really hard undertaking, as it requires that material innovation to comply with really, really strict standards. And this is why we're working with new and innovative materials that we've perhaps previously not looked at. And a really good example of that is actually, we've turned to the automotive industry, or kind of actually waste products from the automotive industry. And they use materials which we can actually extract and then currently, if all goes according to plan, incorporate into our products, which will then actually increase the ease of material separation at the end of a product's life. And again, as we sort of touched on, it is about sort of being able to get the various components easily separated. Right, so just to go back to what I was saying earlier, no matter what the colour, obviously got some rather colourful ones there. I'd like to think that Igi carpets really are green. But for Igi, the circularity goes beyond the materials themselves. It also extends to the processes and manufacturing inputs. So for example, 88% of the residual dye in our plant is constantly recirculated. This year we recycled 1.4 tonnes of pure dye and 6.3 tonnes of chemicals in this way. Also, we reuse and recycle 1,100 tonnes of thickener. So this is something which gets sort of put onto the carpet before it's dyed. It's like a gloopy stuff. Looks a little bit like wallpaper paste. But at the end of the manufacturing process, the water is cleaned in the dyeing plant, and the thickener is actually extracted using centrifuges to enable it to be reused. And we have sort of nearly 14,000 cubic metres of water in recirculation. It's cleaned and reused for selected production processes. And I mentioned the cones that's also sort of a part of a social enterprise that we have. So each one of our tufting looms can hold between 800 and 2,000 yarn cones, and every single yarn cone will always have a little difference in the amount of yarn that's on it. So at the end of a production run, you get a lot of roll ends where there's a little bit left. Historically, all of those cones would have just been thrown in a skip, gone off for incineration. But what we actually did in the pursuit of sort of circularity is to create this social enterprise. So we actually have a unique production line within our business, which is employed by where we employ people on special terms due to their reduced working capacity, maybe sort of disability or sort of learning difficulties. And actually for them it's kind of quite therapeutic because it's sort of certain conditions. So they literally unwind the yarn by hand, but we then can sell that yarn back to the yarn manufacturer for them to regenerate it into new material, and then the cardboard cones, they can then go off for recycling to make, I know, things like egg trays and the like. And underpinning our strategy structure is our adoption of the United Nations sustainability goals. There's quite a few. I'm sure many of you will have seen them, but as a business, we've specifically chosen to hone in on 3 of them. So 12, responsible consumption and production. As I say, we've mentioned about our cradle-to-cradle assortment. We are actually sort of quite proud of the fact, although we kind of lost the title, we've got to regain it with integrating a couple of other brands into our family this year. But we actually broke the world record for the fastest ever full cradle-to-cradle certification. And that's not just in the world of carpets, that's literally across all categories globally, and yeah, to do it in less than 5 years, it's sort of, something we're very chuffed with. And then number 14, life underwater. So we've looked at obviously things like the fishing nets, ensuring that they don't get cast off into the oceans, trying to prevent plastic waste from entering our oceans as well. But we are sort of looking to take this on to a further step in the future, and just to go back to sort of things that you were saying in terms of closing the gap with sort of, having to do those extra bits to get you that last step of the way. We are actually going to be embarking on a scheme which is the planting of mangrove swamps in developing nations. So these swamps act as a natural filter, obviously at the ends of rivers, and again, in a lot of developing countries, there's been a huge amounts of deforestation, intensive agriculture, a lot of obviously sort of intensive agriculture as well, and these rivers are getting sort of there's a huge washout of nitrates and sediments, which are creating sort of these really sort of dead patches of ocean, which are really sort of important for supporting obviously sort of local communities in terms of fishing. But of course there's the added benefit, you're planting, mangrove swamps grow really quickly, and you get that extra carbon boost as well. And then finally, number 7, affordable and clean energy. So as a business, 100% of our electricity comes from renewables. Being in the west of Denmark, we're quite lucky. It's fairly close to the North Sea, and there's quite a bit of wind there. So there's no shortage of that from the wind turbines. However, we do use gas as well for our manufacturing process. Obviously, we need to dry carpets. We're currently using the maximum amount of biogas that's available to us, but we're striving to get that figure increased further. And that is sort of to go beyond sort of the zero figure. When I first sort of saw this terminology being used from our colleagues in Denmark, it's like, we want to be positive, but surely the objective is to be negative and to sort of send it back the other way. But actually it's sort of quite specific really. As a business, we want to be producing more green energy than what we consume. So just have a look at this in a bit more details. How are we actually going to go about getting there? So at present, nearly 1,900 megawatt hours of heat is recirculated through our factories, and that heat is captured from the production processes and then sent out into a district heating system where we actually heat nearly 300 homes. And whilst we're currently sort of using the maximum amount of biogas that's available to us, EGI is lobbying sort of at a local level within the country for further investment in sort of increasing that production capability and to reduce obviously our reliance on natural gas as well. I mean, obviously sort of Denmark's quite well known for farming, so again there is a lot of material available for producing biogas, but just as like a nice sort of final joining of the circle, even the waste food from the staff canteens in the factories in Denmark, that all gets collected and goes off to the bioplant. So today's lunch is tomorrow's energy type thing, so, or leftover lunch. And whilst there's much that we can do ourselves, another key aspect of the circularity is what happens once it leaves our manufacturing plants and reaches the end of its useful life. And that's sort of the key, is closing the loop, as obviously you've brilliantly demonstrated with your activities at Sustain. But we're sort of very much committed and to invest in various schemes. So for us here in the UK, we're a founding member of Carpet Recycling UK, which is really an organisation that's very much involved with government in terms of sort of the defining of legislation, but also sort of those options and avenues for carpets, for helping carpets to realise their fullest potential post-use. Again, yes, at present there is, in the UK, the largest sort of secondary use for carpet is in terms of it being sort of troubled down and then going into energy consumption. Landfill, that figure has come right down, but it's been that energy production. But really it's now sort of about trying to get that material separation and finding new sort of possibilities as well. Again, the other thing which has been a great sort of outlet for a lot of carpets historically are things like, again, troubled down and then put it down on the floors of equestrian arenas. But again, with sort of polypropylene carpets, it creates sort of microplastics which then that can get washed into the water stream. Also sort of carpets, once they've been sort of sent out into the world and maybe sort of, yeah, the carpet gets cleaned, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the carpet cleaners, would you like your carpet scotch guarded? That sort of treatment. And again, it's creating all of these pops that Jeremiah was talking about, which these persistent organic pollutants. And again, it's really sort of about ensuring that, yeah, we find good uses for carpet end of life. So to summarise, close the loop is the pursuit of circularity. Is to replace virgin components with ones that are recycled, reducing the number of components, making recycling simpler and easier, with the holy grail being, as I say, this mono product, and obviously setting up and working with various collection and take-back schemes. So just quickly finishing up, as a rather nice lunch is on its way, just cover off a few of the certifications that we've achieved. So Cradle's Cradle, obviously really important. And there are many other standards out there, but it's not just about sustainability, it's also about the health and well-being too. So things in place to improve indoor air quality. But you also need to have a global breadth for a lot of these certifications as well. Obviously it's not BREEAM, much more sort of European, LEED, much more sort of North America. But the whole industry is really having this huge push now towards environmental product declarations, and it's kind of like the new thing, or growing in relevance. But what we're already starting to see actually now is a lot of reports being released where there's a lot of highlighting that manufacturers are using unrealistic parameters in their EPDs, and it's not sort of, for example, like where the majority of their product is ending up sort of post-life. Chances are it might be sort of going for incineration or landfill, but actually they're putting down on their EPDs that it's sort of recycled because they have a recycling scheme, but it's not. There's a bit of fudging going on at the moment. But I mean, for certainly us as a manufacturer, we do take a genuine real-world approach that's independently validated as well. So we don't want to compromise our integrity as a business and obviously sort of undermine specified confidence. And then finally, EcoVadis. I don't know if any of you have heard of EcoVadis, but it's an organisation that rank over 75,000 businesses across 160 countries. And this year we were awarded platinum by them. So this puts us in the top 1% of all businesses around the world for having the most advanced CSR practices. So that's something that we're very obviously proud of. So in conclusion, the ideas, achievements of circularity and sustainability go far beyond the materials themselves. They are threads in that far bigger tapestry. Sorry, one more carpet pun. And together they are woven with the values of respect, integrity, social fairness, making EGI a world leader in CSR, sustainability and authentic circularity. And there shall endeth the sermon. So thank you.